Hello, and welcome back to the Hilariously Unemployed podcast. I'm your host, and always your favorite opportunity seeker, Dana Duckworth, aka the Big Speaker. How y'all doing? I hope you are well. I hope your holidays have been amazing. Let me tell you about me. So I did do all the gobbling and wobbling with that turkey, but then I got sick. So I've been down and out. But don't worry, I'm back on the mend because I still look good, don't I? So I'm back in the gym. It was really hard for me to take a beat. Sometimes your body will tell you when it's time to rest. And as you all know, I have a lot of jobs and I do a lot of things and I work really hard. And sometimes it's hard for me to turn that part of me off. But when my body is telling me no, I have to listen. So I spent a lot of time in bed this weekend, a lot of time binge watching shows. Paramount Plus is killing it. So I don't know if y'all got Paramount Plus. I know the Cyber Monday deals, Black Friday deals, all types of holiday deals. If not, you need to get it because Lioness is the truth and it's very bingeable. Other than that, y'all, I just really been taking my time trying to make sure that I'm spending lots of time with my children. My niece was over the weekend because, as you know, I've been on a world tour and I've been gone more than I've been home lately. So just really taking time to be grateful and thankful for a rest, to be around the people who love me and that I love, and to build my battery back up the next time that I'm out and about, which will be very soon. I'm not going to tell y'all where, but I am going to be somewhere that you'll see me very soon. Enough about me, though. Not too many highlights this week. I'm so excited, y'all. It's like every time I do an episode, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best one ever. And then I get another guest that I'm just like so thrilled about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best ever. And I'm like, how do I know these people? How do I keep getting engaged with these amazing people that are so willing to lend their voice to my platform? I don't know, y'all. Something about this hilariously unemployed thing, people just resonate with it and they're like, yes, I will come and I will share. So I am excited I am excited to bring to you yet another guest, this one. You know, I know you all are familiar with Cash App, especially around this time, but I'm super excited because we are going to be talking about Untold. And as you know, people who are marginalized and come from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, we often are unseen, unheard. So we'll be talking to Alana very soon about Untold. I want to welcome her to the stage and welcome her to the show. Alana.
Hi,
Say hello to the
Dana.
hilarities.
How are you? I'm so happy to be here and excited to just chat about all the things. And you're right, you look fabulous, even though you feel like you had a cold. But you look good, girl.
You'd be surprised what a little makeup can do. So thank you so much for joining me. And like we do on every episode, first things first, have you ever been hilariously unemployed?
I have been. 2024 was my year of being hilariously unemployed because I quit my job without a plan and just said I'm winging it. So I was unemployed for sure this year.
We got a quitter, y'all.
Yes.
I wish I had air cannons. It's something about leaving a place that no longer serves you, you know?
Mhm.
I applaud people who do that. I've had an instance where I worked for a company and I was just like, oh, it's either
Yeah.
going to be me or them. So I had to
Yeah.
choose me and get up out of there. So I'm excited for us to unpack your journey and really tell my audience your story because there's a lot of hilarity in being unemployed and it does not always come in the form of a layoff. Your
Yeah.
story is one that is different, but I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of people. Let's set the foundation though. Where did you really start your career? What was your first ever job? I mean, the first time you got a paycheck.
First time I got a paycheck. First time I got a paycheck actually was in high school in retail. Like many of us, working a part-time job so I can get clothes and go to the mall and do all that stuff. But my first like real job was after college. I worked for a nonprofit called Project Renewal. I was actually an AmeriCorps fellow and spent 2 years working, at this organization here in New York City that supported people who had a history of substance abuse, mental illness, and incarceration. And we were helping them get back on their feet. So once they were coming out of treatment, coming out of rehab, coming out of prison, we helped them get jobs, find housing, and just get their life back on track. And that was my first like big girl job, like on the train, going to an office. I did that for 2 years before I went to grad school. One of the best jobs I've ever had.
That's a heavy first job.
Yeah, it was awesome.
mean, you said it was awesome, but like, how was your integration into doing that type of work, especially in
Mm-hmm.
the nonprofit sector? I like to say that's hard work too. Like
Mm-hmm.
DEI is hard work. How was that integration from, being a student to working this closely with people and really the outcomes of their lives?
Yeah, so actually the reason why I did this because I took 2 years off because I wasn't sure. I was on my way to med school. That's a whole other story, but decided not to go to med school. And during that time, I was like, I still want to do something that's mission oriented and mission focused. I also
Mhm.
graduated in 2008 when the market crashed and we were in a recession. So finding a job was just very challenging. But I ended up finding this opportunity through AmeriCorps, and the program was called Public Allies, and their focus was social justice and social change and building the leaders of the future. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. And for me, all the stuff I've ever done has been very mission focused work. So this aligned nicely. But to your point, Dana, it was hard because people have a lot of experiences. They've had challenges in their life, but the rewarding part of it was helping people get back on their feet once they had gone through that. And I think I realized through that experience that there's humanity everywhere and that people just, sometimes in the wrong place at the wrong time, they make the wrong decisions at a young age, but they are worthy of being able to get back on their feet and live a great life as well.
Yeah, that's the type of work that transforms you. And to
Yep.
be in that space so early in your career, I'm sure it was a theme that carried on in all of the work that you've done since then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything I've done is mission focused. I joke with people, they're like, oh, your career doesn't make sense. I'm like, it makes sense to me because when you underlie all of it, it's mission. I'm trying to help people and just do things and leave the world a little better than how I found it. That's my motto.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's for me, I didn't start really supporting nonprofits until I was much older, through my work with organizations, working with employee resource groups. I started
Mhm.
working closely with them. And then I joined the Urban League of Hampton Roads here in,
Mhm.
in Virginia. And I really found that I too was looking for like a mission or
Mission.
some way to
Mhm.
really impact and help people. So I really believe in that organization. And it's something that when I can, if there's any time for me to give, that's the space that I want to give my time to. So I
Mhm.
love that about us that we are so mission driven.
Connecting in that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, people are gonna people.
Mhm.
Usually
Yeah.
it's to
Yeah.
make other situation a lot better. Okay, now you said you worked in retail. You didn't tell us which store, but I would like to ask, do you
Yeah.
remember how much you were making at your first job?
My first job, I worked in retail. I was making $10 an hour, $10
That's
an hour,
pretty
which was
good.
really good. I worked at BCBG. That's a throwback. I don't know if everyone knows BCBG
That's
is a
where I got
national.
all my club dresses.
Yes, me too. The dresses, I had all the fits, and I worked with them from high school all the way through grad school. So I had like a lot of BCBG stuff, but that was my
Oh
first job.
my goodness. A
Yeah.
bandage dress. I hate to see you doing
Yes.
this because
I still
that is
have
so
some
funny.
skirts in my closet. I'm not gonna lie.
She still got some BCBG
Yes.
materials. It's vintage
Yes.
now. It's vintage.
Vintage. Yeah, because you can't find you're right, Dana. It is vintage. You can't find it. You cannot find BCBG. Probably
I love
eBay. That's
this
about
so
it.
much. I was making 7.25 an hour, so you made more than I did, but hey, we all started somewhere.
Yeah.
Would you say that you make more now as a CEO, or was $10 an hour a little stronger than what you do now? I say
Honestly,
some days.
I'm not gonna lie, $10 an hour might have been a little stronger. Being a CEO is hard. There's this phrase, and I know you know this, Dana. You don't eat what you don't catch, right? So
Mhm.
like sometimes there's money coming in, sometimes there's not, and you get used to not having the consistent paycheck. So I think that $10 an hour was a little bit more consistent as I've been like building my business.
You know what? You are not the only CEO or founder who has said that, and I completely agree. At least I knew I was getting that
Hmm. Yeah, at least you knew that paycheck was coming.
Yeah, I knew I put in the time and this is going to be the result. Now, as an
Exactly.
entrepreneur, as a CEO, as a founder, you can put in a lot of time, but you still don't
Hmm.
know when that check is going to come. So
Absolutely.
be thankful for your 9 to 5, folks. It's not always as easy as it looks for us.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about your just quit moment. The
Yeah.
moment you knew you had to leave a corporation. What
Mhm.
happened? Let's really unpack that journey for folks.
Yeah. So I know if people probably look at my LinkedIn, they're going to see that my last employer was Cash App. And I'm not here to bash them in any way, shape, or form. But I think, like any relationship, whether it's a friendship, a job, something, you have to know when it's time to move on. And I remember very particularly my moment. I was actually, ironically, in Sydney, Australia on a work trip. And, you would think I'm in Australia, flying
Mhm.
first class, I'm in the best hotels, but I had this moment as I was walking in a park one day and I sat on a bench and like something in my mind was like, you know what? This is not necessarily changing. You might have outgrown this. It's time to think about the next step. And I had to kind of do some real soul searching because, again, I'm used to a paycheck. I'm used to every 2 weeks. And I'm like, what am I going to do? But I made a decision that it was time to bet on myself and just kind of take a leap of faith and take some rest, and move on.
That is a big jump. Can
Yeah.
you tell the audience what your title was at Cash App?
Yeah, I was the global head of inclusion and diversity. So I'd been in that role for a little over 3 years, almost 3.5 years, and had built the entire DEI function for the company, which was amazing. I love building stuff from scratch, probably why
Mhm.
I'm a founder now, starting something new and just building it and shaping it and molding it. But that was a really big job. And I think there are moments where I did feel burnt out. That's probably part of
Mhm.
also why I was like, I need a little bit of a break, but it was really rewarding to be able to stand up a program that's still there now, or I should say a whole department.
Yeah. That is a really big job, and I'm sure it came with a really big paycheck. So to make that jump is a really big deal. It's
Yeah.
so funny you say you were on a work trip in Australia because I have an episode with another person who was on a work trip and she was laid off in Australia. So that's what
No.
the episode is
What's
called.
up with Australia, man?
I don't know. Revelations happened. She was laid off
Yeah.
in Australia. She was on a work trip. They cut off her phone.
While she was in Australia? Oh,
Yes,
that's
she had a
messed up.
time getting back to the US. So
Dang, how are you going to cut off the work phone when I'm out the country? I understand that I got laid off, but still, I'm in Australia.
man, that episode was rough, but she was in a good space to laugh at it, and we had a
Wow.
time that episode.
Okay.
So Australia, I don't know what happens if your job sends you
It's
on
the
work.
sun, it's the people. They're
Okay.
so friendly. It's just like, you're like, what do I want to do with my life?
Yes. Okay. So you are leaving a place where you're making a really good amount of money. You have a
Yeah.
great title. You've built something that's sustainable,
Mhm.
successful, and still there. For me, every founder has to leave. Like every founder has to have that moment where they're like,
Yeah.
I can't do this for anyone else. I
Mhm.
have to build it for myself. How did you convince yourself? Because I know there was like tons of self talk that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like this was the right time, the right moment, and you said, I quit.
I'm going to be honest with you, Dana. I don't know if it was the right time and the right moment, in the sense of like, when I feel like most people plan it out. They're like, okay, I'm going to start my own thing. I didn't really know which direction I was going in. I just knew I had come to the end of the road in this one experience, and it was time for me to move on. Because when I left, I had no job lined up. I had even thought about Untold. I was just like, I need to take a break and take a beat and figure out what I'm doing. So like, I think my situation is probably a little different because, again, nothing was planned. It felt very, some people might call it reckless, but I think for me, after thinking about it, praying about it, talking to my family about it, I was like, I think this is the right move, and God, the universe, whatever you believe in, will catch me and I will figure something out. So yeah.
So as you think back on that moment now, that moment of
Yeah.
clarity that you just had,
Hmm.
what are your feelings about that moment? Do you know now, like I did the absolute right thing at the time and everything is going to be okay? Or do you say, oh, girl, you probably could have?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you, in the moment, I was like, yes, girl. I was so empowered. I was like, yes, you got this. And then, like, a couple of weeks later, you're like, oh, did I just do that? Like, did I just really, people are like, what's going on? And you're like, let me tell you what I just did. And they're like, well, what's your plan? I don't have one. Looking back on it now, sitting here today, yes, I made the right decision. Absolutely made the right decision. I feel like I'm moving in the direction I'm supposed to be moving in. I'm working in my purpose in a very different way. But I
Mhm.
will not lie to you. There were moments where I was like, I think I should have waited longer. I should have saved a little bit more money. Like, you go through those scenarios in your head. But I do feel like here, December 2024, yeah, I made the right choice.
Yeah. There's something about movement, right?
Mhm.
There is always going to be apprehension around change, around movement. But when you get it in your head that this is the move,
Mhm.
I have to do this now, no matter how hard it feels at the time, no matter what the challenges you can foresee or the days where you are like thinking, what if I had stayed?
Yeah.
Something about allowing yourself to move is so
Mhm.
powerful for me because a lot of people get trapped in a space where they can't move, they can't change. They know there are
Mhm.
other things they could be doing or things that they want to do, but they won't.
Yeah.
And for you to just say, it's time for me to move, I think that's so powerful because people don't do that every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's change and transformation is hard. I feel like 2024 has been a year of that for me. So whether it's my job, personal relationships, like there's just always something happening. I'm actually reading this book right now called When Things Fall Apart. And it's by, I'm forgetting the name of the author, but they're a Buddhist monk. And one of the things they talk about in the book is that in life, we're constantly transforming. Like life is always in flux. There's always something happening around us or happening to us. And one of the things we need to learn is how to live in the constant transformation, which is not easy, right? And it's not easy to make the change. But for me, when I get to a point where I'm like, okay, so this is holding me back, I know I have to like take the step. And I think that's the biggest part of transformation and change is just that the initial leap, which is scary. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to sit here and say it's not scary to quit your job. It's not scary to leave a relationship you've been in for 10 years. I'm not going to sit and say that that's not scary, but
Yeah.
like when we change and when we do stuff, that's when we elevate and that's when we vibrate higher. And that's when we're just challenged more and we grow more.
Mhm.
So we have to be constantly evolving and change involves that.
When I reflect on, so 2023 was that year for me, the year
Yeah.
of extreme change. I was laid off and I got
Mm-hmm.
divorced all in the same time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Also graduated with like my first degree, lost my grandma. So all of these things were happening
Yeah.
the same time. And of course, at the time, I'm like, yo, like, what?
Yeah.
What else could happen? What could go wrong? Like, what else is going to happen to me? And now, when I think about that time, I'm grateful that I made it through that time, but I also think about the strength and the way that I grew through those moments, like just
Mm-hmm.
emotional maturity that I've gained, my scrappiness. Like, I don't make nearly as much money as I did last year, but for
Yeah.
whatever reason, I'm happier this year.
Mm-hmm.
I find joy in the smallest of things. I don't feel like I'm in competition with myself. I feel like I'm a Pokemon. I'm constantly
Yeah.
evolving. And when I think about 3 months ago, what I was doing, and now
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the year, what I'm doing, I just see that there's this rapid evolution because there was movement. And now I'm just this force. And no matter what space I am in, whether it's a good day or a bad day, I know for myself, I'm about to do some big shit.
Yes. Oh my God. You're preaching. So honestly, Dana, you probably don't realize this, but you're pouring into me right now in a way that I need because that has been 2024 for me too. This job. My father passed away this summer. I got out of a relationship with someone I thought that was my forever person. You're trying to build this business, but you're also like you're saying, you feel this sense. I feel this sense of movement in my spirit that it's like, okay, things need to be shifted and in flux so I can move to another level. But it's hard. The resilient piece is hard, but I do believe that when things happen, they're not happening by chance.
No, not that amount of shifts. That's not
Yeah.
by chance. This is like, okay, it's time for your life to take another form.
Yeah. Yep.
Because losing someone at the same time where you're losing your job, like that is not
Mm-hmm.
just an everyday, okay, yeah, this happened. That is a huge shift for
Yeah.
someone to go through in the same period of time. So for me, I know that that was required in order for me to do whatever this huge thing that I could feel it in my heart and in my mind.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm waiting for it because give me the
I'm
money.
ready. Yes, yes, I feel you. It's like in here, you're like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Arms wide open.
Like, come on now. Okay. I feel like it was time.
Yeah.
But I just feel this overwhelming warmth in my spirit because I know things are just going to be okay. And it's like, they are going to be okay.
They are going to be okay. Woo. Thank you, Dana. Thank
Hopefully
you.
Sooner rather than later. But
that part.
You know, whatever happens along the journey, like I swear I've learned so many lessons. This time has really trained me, and I feel like I'm a no-limit soldier. Not in a way that I can't be broken, but in a way that I'm flexible. I can bend, I can shape shift with whatever is going on. Like I can ride the wave, and I feel stronger. I feel more beautiful, more confident, more powerful in my skill set. Like I know I have something to offer.
Amen.
It might not be paying for it right now, but I know I got it to offer. So
you do. We all have something to offer.
Yeah, we're going to be okay.
We are.
All right. So let's talk about the mission of Untold.
Yes.
I love to talk to people who are so mission driven and just have it in their mind that whatever I do, because this show is so important to me because it wasn't for me. It was to help other people in this situation. And through the show, it's healed me. But like, that's what I love about mission driven people. It's like, I have this burning fire in my heart and I just want to make it better for other people. And by doing that, we make it better for ourselves. So please tell us about Untold.
Yeah. So Untold, we are a baby. We are still very new. We launched this, my co-founder and I launched this in June. So this past June. So we're less than 6 months old. And the reason why I say that is because that was still my period of trying to figure out what I was doing and what I wanted to do. But we are impact-driven strategists who are on a mission to unlock what we call untold potential in diverse, underrepresented, multicultural communities and consumers. And our mission is to really help brands build authentic connections and relationships with multicultural consumers. We want people to build trust with us as communities. We want people to think about building their brand resonance with us as communities, but we also want to help people increase their market share with us. And at the end of the day, we believe that you can do good while also adding to your bottom line, which always feels like this conundrum in corporate that, you can't do good to society without, losing money or not making money. But I'm like, no, if you're doing this in the right way and you're tapping in the right way, you're going to excel and exceed. And I think especially coming up in these next 4 years, companies will need to understand that very, very quickly.
Absolutely. I love that because when I think about the Black dollar, and of course, this company is for multicultural, all the lenses, but when I think about the Black dollar, when I think about the Black female dollar, we drive the economy
we do.
But it's only been in recent years that products have been tailored to us, that they've actually been working towards the things that we need. And you'll see like new products, new hues, new shades, new shapes, new sizes. So I think one, people have been missing the mark when it comes to specifically Black women and the things we need and what's good for us. But two, is like we kind of shape what's super cool. So
we shape culture and we drive culture. What we determine as cool, everyone else follows.
Yes. So why wouldn't you want us being a driver of your brand? Why wouldn't you want us to be the ones who influence others? Because one thing I know about me and a lot of my sisters, we're going to tell you like it is. And if I promise you, everybody in my family, my mama, my auntie, everybody's going to know that I love that thing because that's just how it is. If something resonates with us, then we want to share it. We want to share it with our community. So I love that you all focus in on that. What are some ways in which Untold does do that for companies? Is it all marketing? Is it data? Is it analysis? How do you really support the company in getting to the population?
Yeah, so there's kind of 3 pillars we work within, insights and data analysis. So we actually meet with a lot of companies or have had a lot of informational conversations with companies who have all this information about their customers. They have all this information about internally about their organization, but they don't know what to do with it. So how do we help you leverage that information and turn that into strategy? The other big pillar we have is around strategy and program design. So again, if you're an organization that wants to be tapping into this market, you're thinking about, doing financial literacy programs in your local community, or you want to partner with HBCU, we can help you design those programs to get that done. And then the last thing we do is brand partnership and storytelling. And even though we are not marketers, we do partner with Black-owned studios that can help people design and build campaigns, but we can help you think of the strategy around that. Who are the partners you need to be connected to? If you're trying to work with more Black and brown people, let's say in the Atlanta area, what's the organization you need to know about? So those are kind of the three pillars we work along.
I love that you all do partner with different folks when it comes to the marketing, because a lot of times we'll see these brands miss the mark.
They do.
You'll see the commercials and you'll be like, how did no one catch that?
No one was in the room. Or Dana, sometimes people are in the room, but they are not empowered to speak up, right? Because I think that's also a myth that we just assume there's no, yes, there are some rooms where there's no representation, but there are a lot of rooms where there is representation, but people don't feel like they have the ability to say, wait, that's weird, we shouldn't do that, or that's appropriation, or that's going to be deemed offensive, whatever it is. That happens a lot. In this, it's still in this day and age, 2024, there's lots of examples of that.
To be in a position where you hold the title, but none of the power, you become a token, and your opinion, your thoughts, they're not valued the same way that everyone else's would. And you see companies have these huge heads of this or heads of that, and they still are making these flaws. They're doing these things that happen, and everybody else in the world is like, how couldn't you see that? And it's because they don't value the perspective that's there. So they need to either broaden that perspective or give the actual power that comes with the title. And I'm glad that people like you are there to help organizations really understand how important it is that multiple voices shine through in your brand. You know, focusing on just one demographic or being so close-minded that you're only targeting one specific group of people when everybody needs a solution for something. Whatever the solution is, you should be trying to figure out how that solution could help whatever the population is.
Yeah, it's so needed. The example I always give people of, like, you know, of a company who I think, well, a person, a company, but I think about Rihanna and Fenty, right? When she started Fenty Beauty, people were like, wow, she's got all of these shades. And how many times as Black women, because I used to do this back in the day, I was mixing like to get my exact color because I wasn't getting what I needed. And it's so interesting because people were like, to your point, the Black dollar, we're $1 trillion market. So if you cater to us, we're going to spend. I mean, when Fenty first came out, that you couldn't find it on the shelves. And then when she had her lingerie line, she was really thinking about diversity of body shape and type. And people were like, that's not going to sell. I mean, she almost put Victoria's Secret out of business, like overnight, right? Because they were catering to a very different, you know, what we deem as beauty, you know, or what the world has told us is beautiful. But like, it's, to me, it's a no-brainer. And I just, sometimes I think I have a hard time and I'm like, why don't people get this? But, you know, there's work to be done.
I mean, of course, we want them to get it in the heart way, but if you don't get it in the pocket way, you never gonna get it in the heart way.
I'm like, you know what I'm saying? We got money to spend and we can spend our money. And I think people are getting more thoughtful about how they're spending their money. People want to know, are you a Black-owned business? Are you a woman-owned business? How do I put my dollars back in my community versus making someone a billionaire, a trillionaire, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about DEI because this is that we both do.
Yes.
We've seen some very recent rollbacks from some very big organizations. When you think about DEI, and I know, you know, oftentimes it's put into that people bucket. This is an HR thing. Talk to me about what the impacts on job seekers are when people silo DEI and they're not thinking about it all throughout their company.
It's my biggest pet peeve in this work because I think that siloing it in the people space or the HR space just only cripples the leaders that are doing this work. And one of the things that I will say and continue to say is that companies that I've seen do this work really, really well, their person who's head of this has their own function, but they're also reporting to the CEO because diversity, equity, inclusion is not just a people thing. Yes, we want to be thoughtful about talent. We want to be thoughtful about pipelines. We want to be thoughtful about who we're hiring, who are retaining, but also to what we've been talking about. You want to be thoughtful about the products you're developing. You want to be thoughtful about the marketing, the branding, even your supplier diversity, right? There's so many ways to think about this work, but oftentimes it's just put in this one place. And if you're a leader, it's hard for you to move out of that. And when I say move out of that, maybe have autonomy or be able to be a part of that work. And realistically, Dana, you know this as a DEI leader, the DEI function doesn't really own a lot. Most of the one thing that we have complete control over, usually in organization, is like the ERGs or BRGs. Everything else, we have to partner with people. We have to influence them. We have to help them understand why this work is important. And I think by elevating the role and putting it in different places within the org, it can make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, it does make a difference when you think about talent. Like that's a huge impact to your organization. You are deciding what the future of your company is going to look like, who you're hiring, how you innovate, and how you shape it. When you think about money, when you think about all the things that drive revenue in your organization, when you don't have a diverse lens, when you're not thinking about, because you just don't know. It's not your lens.
Yeah,
you just don't have those different voices in the room, or you don't have somebody that is constantly thinking about what is the impact and what can we do in regards to DEI in this sector of our business. You are missing out on so many things. And I liken it to, I was talking to someone who is a true ally, and he was saying like, hey, I play trivia and it's me and a bunch of white guys. And we go to the bar and we're playing trivia, and then we look across the room and we're playing against this team. And there's like old people, white people, black people, short people, tall people. They kill us. They kill us in trivia. Why? Because they all have different lenses. They all know different things. They're all bringing something different to the table. Whereas we have kind of the same background. We maybe went to the same schools or grew up in the same way. Maybe we have the same faith. So they were not able to do it. And I think about that oftentimes when I think about organizations, like who you want on your trivia team?
Yeah, that's a good one.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That way you can crush your competition.
Yeah.
When you're just working off of one person's lens, it's never going to innovate as quickly as you would like it to.
No.
And
we've seen that crash and burn. Like we've seen that story so many times, right? Where something comes to market and you're like, you thought we would use it this way, but you didn't. And then you see the other examples of people doing it really well. Like I'm trying to remember what the product is called, but MasterCard has a product where it's for people who are visually impaired and blind, and they have different credit cards so that you can understand which one's your debit card, which one is your credit card, maybe, which one is just, like you're not handing someone your license thinking they can swipe that. But it's just little things like that you're just like, okay, that makes a big difference in someone's life. And there's someone on the product team who probably had that experience and said, hey, this is what our customers need, because we want everyone to be using MasterCards, right? We want everyone to be swiping our card.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like, listen, you have the population, like poll your people, figure out. When people don't like use the people that work inside of their organizations to figure out what will be better, I'm always so shocked, because I'm like, you literally have a data pool right here. So tell me about your life, what things you need in your life, how things can be easier for you if you were or needed a product. What are some things that are important? And they just are like, no, we did some market data, It's like, who's the market?
Yeah. Do you even know your market?
Yeah. Do you know your market? That's also important. Do you know your market? So I know my answer to this, and I don't know if your answer is going to differ. Do you think companies are as reliable as they used to be? And what should professionals really keep in mind as they're navigating this evolving workforce?
I think so. I have two answers to this. I think yes and no. My yes is that I think companies will still be around, but the business model is changing for them. And as employees, people need to be prepared for the changes in the business model. So whether that's you're acquiring new skills, you're learning something new so that you continue to adapt to how the business is moving and changing. I think there's reliability in that. But I think we've also seen the past few years, and I have my own opinions about what's been happening with these layoffs, is that these companies have no problem shaping their workforce very quickly. But I do think we will enter these cycles where people are hiring and then cleaving as they're building new things, products, services, etc. And with that being said, we all have to be prepared to figure out what that looks like for us. So if you're starting a side hustle, if you're doing something else to make more money or to have income in the event something like that happens to you, it's important, because the days of us being at companies, 20, 30 years, we were never that generation. But I think even now, more so often, people stay at a company a year and a half, and they're moving on to the next.
Personal question, just something that just popped in my mind. As somebody who was a global head of a department, how do you feel about the entrepreneur in the 9-to-5 space? Like the people who do have the businesses?
My thing is, I don't necessarily care as long as you get your work done. That's always the type of leader I am, because even if you don't have a 9-to-5, you got a family, you got personal responsibilities. My thing is just, if you get your work done, that's what's most important to me. And I think actually when we have people who have the ability to balance multiple things, they actually can be better employers or employees, I should say, because they have so much going on, but they have that entrepreneurial spirit, which they're probably using some of that in the workforce as well.
Yeah, that's why I like startups, because startups are like, yo, you're an entrepreneur. Okay.
Yeah.
Come over here, work with us, do whatever it is you do. But the thing is, they know that entrepreneurs know what it looks like to fail. They know what it looks like to succeed. They know what it takes to build something to scale, because they're doing it or have done it. I know a lot of people are like, you can't be working another job. Why not? If I could do it very well.
If you can do it, if you're getting your work done, why not? If you're spending 40 hours outside of work doing something else, okay, you're going to spend 40 hours outside of work doing something else anyway, whether it's a gym, a hobby, family. So as long as you're showing
that person works really hard. I want them on my team.
Yeah.
Please come show me your ways. Now, when we talk about job seekers and people who are actively searching, especially around this time of the year, I see so much on LinkedIn every single day. It's like my algorithm, since I've become the employment career focused lady, my entire timeline is open to work, just got to open to network where this atrocious thing happened. So I see a lot of it constantly on my LinkedIn feed. What are some leadership red flags as a person who was a leader in a big organization that companies need to address when they're trying to retain good talent, these people who are hilariously unemployed?
Yeah. So first I want to say, I know the job market is rough, and it's been rough. And for anyone who is still seeking a job, looking for their next opportunity, hang in there, because I know it's not easy. But I do think I think some things will turn around sooner than later, but I will tell people to hang in there. It's not on them. Continue to believe in your skills. You will land that next job. When I think about leadership, I think the thing that's really interesting with leadership right now is that leadership has changed so much in the past decade. And I think we've seen so much of it change since COVID, because it's not necessarily about, can you do the job? We know if you're a leader, most likely you can do the job. But right now it's more about the people aspect of leadership. It's about the emotional intelligence, the emotional EQ, being able to empathize, being able to coach people, mentor people, which I think is a much greater demand on people leaders now than it has been before, because the world is so connected to our jobs. Like, we are in spaces now where people are talking about politics at work. We're in spaces now where people are talking about what's happening outside of work, and it's flooding into the work environment. And then that's coming up in your weekly meeting, or someone's like, I'm having a tough week this week because of X, right? So I think as organizations need to be training leaders a little bit better on a lot of these topics. But I think the other thing too is we want leaders who are holding up the values of the organization, but also modeling those behaviors. One of the things I hate is when I see an organization that's like, we believe in DEI, and we believe in equity, and we believe in this, but I'm like, but this leader over here do you see how they're treating their people? Or do you see how they're acting? Like, that's not, you need to get rid of them, or they need some serious coaching, because that's not what you want. And I think that's the red flag we're seeing, because people don't quit their jobs, they quit their leaders. A job is still a job, but if you have a good manager, even if the job is chaos or the company's chaos, people will stay. If they have a poor manager, they will leave that every single time.
Every single time they will leave it. I see a lot of it in sales organizations.
Yeah.
So they have these pillars, they have these values, and then you have a leader who's a terrible, terrible person. It's like, how do you expect me to go around that and live up to the values and the expectations of the organization when I have this person who's not walking in that? So looking back, what is one thing you wish you'd known before you started Untold?
Probably that I should have saved more money. Let's talk. I'm like,
that's real.
I know. And again, my story, as you guys heard, this was kind of like, I didn't have a plan. So if I had a plan, I really would have saved more money. I think the one thing I wish I had known, but I'm learning now as I'm building this out, is that there's constant iteration in how you're growing your business and how you're talking about your business and how you're pitching to people or just connecting with people. And my co-founder is so good at this because I will say to him, oh my gosh, we're on like the 20th version of our deck. And he's like, no, but like, that's okay. Like, he's like, we're always going to be iterating. And today we were on a call with another CEO and founder, and his company's been around for 2 years. And he's a good friend of mine. And he goes, this is the 120th version of my deck. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, these are the things that I have to recognize because having been in corporate for so long, and my like professional career after the nonprofit started in consulting. I worked at Deloitte for almost 7 years. Everything is like structured. There's templates. This is how you do it. There's processes. So my brain operates like that. I'm very used to that. But in entrepreneurship, it does
get into that like startup groove, okay?
It does not work like that. So like, there are things that I'm like really good about that I take on for my co-founder. Like, I'm managing the books and I'm the one who's like planning strategy. So I love the strategy stuff. I love that. But then there's other things I'm like, oh, this is just a very different process. And I'm learning, and it's been great because I'm learning, but it's a journey, you know?
Now, I love startup culture because it's so just like, whatever, fill the hole. We don't have.
What are we doing today?
What are we doing? We need that. We need that.
Like, now we're working on this.
It goes back to that theme we were talking about, like movement. It has to evolve. And a startup starting something up, it has to evolve. So you're going to have so many more decks. I'm glad that you've come to terms with the fact that it's not the end.
That's not the end.
Okay, so what keeps you motivated in the fight to make DEI and authentic representation really central for the organization? Because we know the tide has really changed, and a lot of people are not even wanting to focus in or say the words DEI anymore inside of words. What makes you stay true to it and know that Untold is the success that it already is destined to be?
Yeah, I think it's because of what I see around me. We know statistically that the United States is getting more diverse, right? The world is more diverse. People and their intersectionalities around gender, religion, race, language. Like, we're not these monoliths as much as the media will make you think that, or certain groups of people will make you think that. And when I think about Untold, and I just think about this country, there's so much work to be done. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard these next 4 years. And I know we see in the news, like, I think Walmart last week announced they were rolling back a lot of their stuff. I think we'll start to see companies talk about culture more, and they'll broaden it and talk about belonging. And don't get me wrong, belonging is a part of the equation. But what we have to, again, bring full circle is what we're talking about is having the representation and diversity in these organizations. Because guess what, Walmart, the people that are actually in your stores don't look like the leadership team or the majority of people. And let me not say that. Everyone, like, they serve everyone shopping at Walmart, right? So you have to really, these companies need to be better. That's this point blank. But I just think there's so much work to be done. And I'm like, okay, either you do it or you don't. But there's a lot that we need to manage. And there's a fight that we need to keep fighting, to be honest.
Absolutely. And finally, I love all of my guests to leave those who are on a search for their next opportunity with some type of gem. What advice do you have for anybody who's ready to make a bold career move like you did?
I would say just do it. Like, I think we have to, like, just do it. That's it. I'm trying to think. I'm like, what else am I trying to say? I think that we have to be okay with trying new things. We have to be okay with failing, because if you fail, okay, you fail, you get back up, you do something new. But I think we have to be comfortable with knowing everything we have is inside of us. All the things we need to be successful are already there. I don't know if you remember this data. This was a few years ago. Michelle Obama was like at she had some speech, and she was talking about how she's been in these rooms, and she was like, these people are not as smart as you. And I remember thinking, like, baby, she's right, because I've been in some of these rooms, and I'm like, these people don't know what they're doing. They're trying to figure it out as well. So I think we also have to get out of the mindset of we have to be perfect. Just do it. Just try. Go for it. Because people with half of our talent are doing stuff, and we could be out there doing it as well.
I love that. That's why I've become so confident and so cool with like so many CEOs and founders, because people are always like, no, they don't. I'm like, yo, they don't know what I know. Like, they're a CEO, they're in charge of this thing, but they don't know everything.
And sometimes they're CEOs just because they're there. Like, we can have that real conversation too, where people are in these roles because you were employee number 2, right? That's the only reason why you're there, not because you should be the CEO, right? And I know we're talking about startups, but I'm like, sometimes people are just in their roles. Correct. They don't know what they're doing either.
Like, take it until you make it, you know?
Yeah. So
baby.
If they can do it, then you could definitely do it too, you know?
All right. So where would you like people to connect with you, learn more about Untold Impact, follow you, and support your organization?
Yeah, so definitely please follow me on LinkedIn. We have a page on LinkedIn as well at Untold. And if you want to visit our website, www.untold-impact.com, reach out to us. Would love to hear from folks and just engage with us there. So we're really excited about what we're building. We always tell people follow us on LinkedIn, because there's just so much happening in this space. And hopefully we'll be reporting more this time next year.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your very unique experience with myself and the audience. This was truly a pleasure for me to talk about, your quitting moment. Like, that is the story in itself. And I hope that you are storytelling also, because you will change somebody's trajectory by sharing your story. I've learned so much through my storytelling that it's the way that we connect and the way that other people can grow without having to go through what we've gone through. So thank you so much for being a guest on the Hilariously Unemployed. Y'all, thank you again for tuning in, whether you are audio only or watching our beautiful faces on this visual that is prepared for you. I can't thank you all enough for continuing to support the show. And like I always say, if you know anybody that's hiring or anybody who is hilariously unemployed, share the show with them. This is meant to be a resource for those folks. And thank you. As always, I've been your favorite opportunity seeker. It's the big speaker, y'all. Signing off. Bye.
Thanks.